You are watching CaribVision.
Look.
Okay.
He was already in this book for Liz Torlee.
There's so many good sentences in here.
He didn't even remember that you guys were coming back. But anyways, welcome back, everybody. Welcome everybody in the Caribbean. Welcome everybody in the U.S. All over globally. We welcome you.
Yeah. And we're speaking with Liz Torlee, who's written this book, and it's great, really great. And we're happy to have Liz back here. Liz,
how are you?
Great to
Very
see
good,
you.
thank you. Thanks.
Okay, good. Now we can hear you finally because we couldn't yesterday. But yeah, so the way things fall.
That's a good saying, the way things fall, because, a lot of things can fall in different ways.
Well, we've been saying that ever since we found out that was the title of Liz's book. And Liz, so this is your first novel?
It's my first novel. I have written some short stories in the past, and I've written a lot of articles for business marketing magazines, but fiction's my first love, so I was thrilled to get the novel out and published. It's great.
Yeah, and so with that kind of background, and I know you worked in marketing and stuff, so all kinds of business writing and that sort of thing. But what was it really that compelled you to say, I really got to start writing this book? I got to get this story out, that sort of thing.
I guess the story has always been rattling around in the back of my head, a story about destiny, because I'm a big believer in the fact that there's another force out there that kind of runs our lives. And it's just always been there. And then it was sparked by a very good friend who's an artist who asked me what kind of painting I would choose if I were to commission one from him when he became famous. And an image came into my head of a man standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting to meet the sunrise. But as you know, the sun does not rise. The sun stays perfectly still, and we are careening through space to meet it. And somehow in my mind, I saw this man turning with the earth to meet the sun. And I don't know where the image came from, but I decided to try to explain it to myself. And who is this man, and what's he about, and is he going to jump off? What's the problem here? And the story started to develop. And this was a few years ago. And then other characters started knocking in my head and saying, but it's our story too. We want to be in it. And it just grew from there. So I don't know. It's something goes on up there and you feel like you got to get it on paper.
Wow.
Well, Liz, you believe in a lot of things with faith.
I do.
Faith, fate, and being at the right place at the right moment, and you don't believe in coincidence.
No,
that's so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, years ago, I used to study Carl Jung as part of my college education, and he's the one who said there's no such thing as coincidence. He used the term synchronicity, and that there's some interweaving of forces in the universe that make the three of us be here to get to again today, that make us meet certain people, do certain work. It's all a grander scheme. So I've just always believed that. And I also believe in karma, and fate and karma have inextricably interlinked, I think. And this story is rooted in the idea of karma and the fact that if you do something wrong, you can try to atone, but will it or won't it be enough? And that fate, you might think, I don't want to go that route. But if you are meant to go that route, you'll always end up back on that path. So destiny can be diverted, but it can't be cheated.
Well, we don't know that for sure, right?
Well, she's experienced it, Hugh.
I know it for sure.
Here you're telling the people that.
No, I'm just saying.
To all our listeners out there, I'm telling you.
I got a few ideas about this stuff too,
All right.
Because I heard, this is what I heard, Liz, was that I heard that karma is now, it can be erased instantly. Instant karma. That's why John Lennon wrote that song. And since 1972. So since then, now you can just realize how wrong you were, atone, and
you're done with it.
Well, hopefully.
I beg to differ.
Yes.
Well, with you and John Lennon, actually. God rest his soul.
But Liz, you still the book. You know, you have a passage before we delve into the book.
Oh, we're gonna do it.
Oh, geez.
Maybe we can do a couple of passages.
We'll see.
Because I want to break some ground.
We don't want to read out the whole book, you know.
This is a good passage. I know it's good.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go. Let's hear from one of these, passages in the book.
Okay, I just have to tell you, this is the main character, Rachel. She's working in Cairo with a man called Carl, who is an astronomer and an Egyptologist. And he has introduced her to a drug which helps to expand the mind a little. So I'll read you something about that. When they're in the desert with a telescope. When she brought the night sky into focus, she felt a tacit understanding between herself and the multitude of stars. With Carl at her side, his arms around her, his voice guiding her, she learned to let herself melt into the night and go with those stars as they cruised along the ecliptic. She understood more profoundly than ever why, thousands of years ago, ancient and certainly wiser people felt their influence and identified so strongly with their power. As they lay on the blanket on the sand and stared at the great tapestry of the night sky, he would read by flashlight from the Egyptian Book of the Dead or recite passages from memory. Air and water, the elements that ruled their own nativities, these, he said, should be celebrated the most. He showed her how to track the constellations which represented these, focusing on them star by star. "Are you ready?" he would whisper. He'd sip from the silver flask and pass it to her. She would hold the liquid under her tongue, then cling to him, waiting for it all to begin. She gave herself over to the euphoric release of tension, the extravagance of sound and color, the vast kaleidoscopic vistas, the loss of gravity, the furious pump of blood in her veins. He was always beside her, gripping her hand and spinning her round to see what he saw. They watched Castor and Pollux, locked forever together, soaring across the universe, the great bull Taurus charging ahead of them, his red eye blazing through the darkness. When Carl spoke, the words spilled from his mouth and fractured into tiny crystals, hanging in the black night like diamonds. When they made love, she felt the whole world flashing and glittering. It was the only world she wanted.
Wow. That's sexy.
See, that's a good book.
That's
what I'm talking
you can
about.
learn something from it?
Where do you get these silver flasks?
And what exactly is in them?
and the scene is described, you said in Cairo, you like to, you love Cairo, you said, right?
I do love Cairo. I fell in love with Egypt when I first visited many years ago, partly because my dad was in Egypt in the war, and I grew up listening to his stories of the Bedouin and the desert, and I desperately wanted to be there. And as soon as I got there, I found the Egyptian people were just wonderful people. I loved their way of life, their culture, and I just loved the desert landscape. And to top it all off, I met my husband in Cairo. So there was fate at work.
See? See, there had to be a connection somewhere in this book.
He is anything like the male character in the passage.
No, not really. He has a particularly different kind of charm.
Well, the book is about, if I remember correctly, it's a kind of there's a bit of a love triangle or some sort of.
It is a triangle. The Rachel, she's an art critic, and it starts with her going into a gallery and getting a very strange feeling about the pictures on the wall. She feels like she's actually part of those pictures, that she's been in them, but she doesn't know the work, doesn't know the artist. And then and it takes her back to when she was in Egypt, the passage that I read, and she worked with this man, Carl. And as her relationship with the painter develops, she is drawn back increasingly to something that happened to her many years ago, a tragic accident, and she made a very cowardly decision. Mm-hmm. So can she get away from that decision? Can she atone for it? And the one man, Carl, is saying fate will catch up with you, and that you need to, this is what you need to do. Does she listen to him or not? You have to read to find out. But in the tension between her relationship with the painter and her relationship with the astronomer grows as her own tension about the decision she made grows. So, yeah, it's all interwoven.
Now, does she have to make a decision about which guy she's going to go with?
Kind of. Well, fate is leading her on a certain course, and she tries to escape it. You'll see whether she can.
Oh, wow. See, it's the plot thickens.
Well, hopefully. That was the general idea.
So when you wrote the way things fall, did you write this during COVID, before this happened?
It started before the virus. Started many years ago, but then I met the publisher when I had discussions with the Blue Denim Press, who published it. And they suggested a slightly different angle. And I spent the year of the months when COVID started, I rewrote a fair bit of it. Okay. And I think it made it a lot better. So in many ways, the virus was a blessing in disguise, because it just forces you to stay home and
think and be at home.
Be at home.
Be at home.
No excuse. I couldn't say I don't have time to write, because what else am I going to do? So I was grateful in many ways for the forced hibernation.
Well, COVID has made a lot of people reach their inner self, during this thing. People writing books, people who are actually be at home are at home. And they did a lot of people did a lot of different things during COVID, because a lot of people wrote songs. They're doing all kinds of stuff now, right?
I think for a lot of people, it has been a bit of a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Although for a lot of people, it's been very difficult as well. And in fact, we had Slim on yesterday, whose song was really about, a little bit of tonic for people who've been suffering throughout all this. What do you think of the whole COVID thing, Liz? We don't have to get political here. You can refuse to answer if you want.
No, I think it's a very sobering thing, because in my case, it's made me realize what I valued so much that's now gone. I think we talked earlier about you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And I love nature. I love walking. I love trekking. Thank God that was still possible in many cases. So, once we were let out a little bit for a walk, it was, oh my God, the sky, the trees, the spring is coming, the changing of the seasons. I'm much more aware of those things now. And of course, the people that you miss. Mm-hmm. So you take these people for granted, and then when you can't see them, it's awful. So
you're just talking to everybody on the phone, and that was all you could do, is talk or look at them through the video, and then the internet gets overwhelmed, which it is now.
Because that's what we're doing with this show, even. But I think it really for me, part of the thing was like, all of a sudden there were certain things that you couldn't do, not just people, but actual things that you did that I had been putting off, right? And now it was impossible to do it. So when is this book, like The Way Things Falls, is it expensive, or is it because a lot of people they like the actual, how can you get the copies of it?
You can get it on Amazon. So on Amazon you can get the print version, which I think is like $20 $25, something like that.
Some of the average.
Or you can get the Kindle version, which is a lot less expensive. Or you go on in Canada on Indigo Chapters and get the Kobo version. Or you can go into your friendly neighborhood bookstore and they'll order it for you.
So you made those arrangements. That's great.
Yeah. So most bookstores will order, as long as it's on their list, they'll order it. And I will go to some bookstores and see if I can get them to take a few copies from me. I will be pounding the papers.
I want to read one. And then, are you writing anything else? Because once you write your first novel, you want to do the second one, right?
I'm writing the sequel. I guess I call it the hopeful sequel because this would have to be a success in order for a sequel to work. But just like fate itself, once something starts, you can't stop it. So I took the minor characters in this book, because even though the major characters are the ones that we're reading about and are being influenced under our eyes by the course of destiny, that's also affecting minor characters. So even someone you bump into in the street, you've just affected their life. So I've taken the minor characters and I have turned them into the major ones for the sequel. And it's set in Morocco. There's a Middle Eastern theme here just because I love the Middle East, and Morocco is another country I fell in love with. So we'll see. I'm 17 chapters into it. And if COVID keeps going, I'll be done.
30.
I'll be back again next week.
Well, it sounds like you're almost building. There's a whole world there that you are exploring with, the principal characters, but now the other characters, their lives get to be explored as well. I want to ask you, because I think you mentioned yesterday, and this is that when you were writing the book, there was one point where there was a knock on the door, and you were intending there to be a certain character there, but when you actually wrote it, there was a different person behind the door. Yeah. I mean, that is amazing. I mean,
it was a character that actually, this was set in Tuscany. The last third of the book is set in Tuscany, another fabulous country. The painter is living there, so what a great place for a painter to live. And I was stuck writing about him. I thought, I don't know what happens next, but I heard his doorbell ring in my head. And I thought, well, it's probably a local tradesman. But it wasn't. It was this strange-looking character. I called him a Rumpelstiltskin type character. He long grey hair and a sort of wizened face and a walking stick. And he was going blind, and he had a dog, and he heard that a painter had come to live there. He gave the dog to the painter. So I don't know where he came from. I don't know why the dog was there. I don't know why the painter had to have a dog, but he did.
You hear those stories, when people are writing, and you just wonder, like, where is all this stuff coming from?
It's the huge power of the imagination. And I'm a strong believer that everybody's got at least one novel in them that's desperate to get out. And I guess if you listen hard enough, those characters will come knocking. They'll pop out. Yeah.
Pop out, evolve.
Yeah.
I like this synchronicity you're talking. When people, sometimes you're thinking of a song, and all of a sudden you turn on the radio. That's the same song, or you're singing something, and you say, "Wait, that's the same song I was just singing."
Do you ever get that?
Yeah, I do. Do you?
Yeah.
Sure?
I live my life by it.
Or you think of someone.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think of a friend and they phone you. Now that's. How can that be anything other than the grand machinery up there? Your thoughts have gone out and they've connected with that person's thoughts and they phoned you.
It's like you say, if you talk about somebody or something, and then next thing here's a person shows up, they talk them up or something. That's what they say.
Yeah. So there's something weird going on. Life is a mystery.
It is.
It is.
And we're too busy to understand. That's what happens mostly. We're rushing through life, and I include myself, racing from one thing to another. And we should stop and listen and stop and think, and the most amazing things happen.
Yes. Wow.
Well,
we gotta buy this.
Well,
this
book, it's really. I mean, that was just you read a couple more sentences in here, and it's just you're drawn in. No, don't worry, Liz. I won't read
Can you see
that
it?
sentence.
Oh yeah, what's in the silver flask? Yeah.
But it's really actually I'm
But that makes a good novel, though. Those little sexual scenes, or not sexual.
who said
but,
anything about sexual
nobody
scenes?
said anything, but you know, I'm not saying, but those little parts that draw the into the fantasy. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of people. Okay, I'm not saying
Anyways,
anything.
I'm just saying, I'm intrigued. I want to sink my teeth into this book.
Thank you.
And people can get it at Amazon.ca.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have a website, Liz?
I do. It's www.thewaythingsfall.com.
Oh, it's
Look
in
at
the name
that.
of the book, The Way Things Fall.
.com, yeah.
And you could probably order the book from there too, right?
You can order from there, and I got several blogs going on the website about karma, about fate, about
Really?
the love of the desert, and
Oh my!
so I'd love anyone to visit the website and just give me their thoughts. And
That's cool. thewaythingsfall.com. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, Liz.
Anyways,
You know
it was
what? I'm
great.
really glad we had to bring you back because it's been great to just
it's great to be here. Thank
chat and talk, and I love what you're doing. So that's great.
you. Thank you so
thanks for
much.
doing this.
Thanks.
And we'll bring it back when you get your next book.
Thank you.
Absolutely. do that.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to do some commercials now? Do you
Yes, and we'll be right back with Talk It Out, Chill, DJ Despair, with the special guest,
DJ
J. Ryan Wolf. So we'll be right back.